If you're over 65, there's a 25% chance that you'll fall. And if you do fall, studies show that your chance of falling again double. And if you fall and break your hip, then there is a 30 to 40% chance that you will die within a year. And it's not from the fall, it's from everything that happens related to the fall, from the hospital stay, infection, whatever it may be. But that statistic, when I heard it, really shaped how I think about training and movement and the need for myself to build up armor so that if I do fall in my later years, I can get up, I can break the fall. Because I now really think of myself in my 40s of building the body that I want to have in my 80s, my 70s, my 90s to be able to truly enjoy life. It's a wonderful evolution in how we think about movement that has happened, where there's much more of a focus on strength training and not just in the bodybuilding world.
Awesome. I'm live with Colleen and Jason Wachob, co-founders of Mindbodygreen. It's awesome to have you here, both here today.
Well, thanks so much for having us. Honor and privilege. We love listening to your show.
Thrilled to be here.
Yeah, you two are OGs in the wellness space, and in many ways, inspired my own path to work in this world, and not just work on maybe a specific brand or product, but there's so much interesting work and products and services and trends that have gone on in this world of well-being, but kind of showcasing, highlighting different ones and diving into double clicking on different ones in order to know the pros and the cons and the nuances is something that you all have done extremely well, and have also really highlighted in your new book, The Joy of Wellbeing. I have it here.
Awesome.
And so excited to sort of dive in and hear how your journey has inspired this book and your current view on the world of wellness and well-being.
So, I think our why has changed a couple times on this journey. We're 14 years into Mindbodygreen. Most recently, my why has become longevity. 48. We have 2 little girls, and men in my family have an extraordinarily poor track record with regards to longevity. My father died of heart disease at 47. My paternal grandfather died of heart disease at 49. Excuse me, I always get this one. The paternal and maternal. I'm just going to say both grandfathers, one died at 49 from heart disease, the other died 44 from cancer. So no one's made it into their 50s. And, I have 2 little kids, and this really hits home. And longevity is a passion of mine, and I am fortunate that, I'm in great shape, and I have the ability to work with great doctors and do all sorts of testing, and I'm good. And I believe that we all have family histories that we're not proud of for the most part, whether it's cardiovascular disease or cancer or cognitive decline. I don't think I'm unique here, but I do believe in epigenetics, that we do have the power to turn on and turn off genes through lifestyle modifications and if need be, pharmaceutical interventions. And with that said, what's been so exciting in the past 14 years is longevity's come so far with regards to all of the scientifically driven, evidence-based recommendations on this subject. However, with that said, it's become like overwhelming and impossible to keep up with them all. So much so it can actually add to more stress to your life than an improvement. And a lot of the advancement feels like it's caters to the 1% of the 1%. And for people in this business who are passionate about wellness, we feel overwhelmed. So the question we started to ask ourselves is, what does longevity look like for the rest of us who, work a lot or have a partner or spouse or kids, chores, commitments? And that really got us going to really think about this bigger question that we started on 2 years ago with the book. And the other thing we've kind of, in the context of this book, it's called The Joy of Wellbeing. Joy is, we're very picky about that word. And if we think about, 1.0 is just, longevity, lifespan. Like, can I live to as long as possible, say to 100? Then there's health span, the 2.0. I want to live as long as I can, say to 100, and hopefully have a great quality of life and that I'm healthy, fit, and mobile. So let's say I live 99 years, 11 months, 30 days, and 12 hours, and then I rapidly decline that half day or drop dead of a heart attack. Boom. And then we joy span, because what's the point of being healthy and fit and mobile if you don't have any friends and your family doesn't like you and you're miserable? That kind of sucks. And this idea of joy with all these modalities and protocols and practices, let's not lose sight of having fun. And there's so much research coming out of COVID, the power of connection and purpose and joy, and why that's an important part of the wellness conversation. So that's a big why for us, right? The why behind the book, and why we started working on it 2 years ago. And it's why it's so important to Colleen and I personally.
Colleen, how have your ideas on well-being evolved since you started Mindbodygreen?
Yeah, I mean, in so many ways. I mean, if we were to just start with the why, I became deeply immersed in this world after a life-threatening pulmonary embolism. And I'll give a kind of quick synopsis of what happened there. I was leaving a yoga class that I always did in my early 30s, a hard, kind of strenuous, strong class at Tara Stiles' studio in Soho, and was walking around the West Village and was like, Jason, I need you to come walk with me. I'm a little out of breath. Um, and walked around, was like, I think I need to go home. We took the train home, and I was getting out of the subway station and collapsed on the stairs. And eventually got out and then do what so many people do. We called my general practitioner, and then I proceeded to gaslight all my symptoms. Was like, oh no, I'm just dehydrated. It's a really hot day. No worries. Anything to avoid going to the NYU ER. And then I was super lethargic, took naps the rest of the afternoon, and weekend. And on Monday morning, Jason was like, the only way you can go to work today as if you stop by your doctor on the way. So I went to the doctor, and within minutes, he's like, you're having a pulmonary embolism. And I didn't really understand what that meant. And I was very bewildered. So he gave me a little note card that said, I'm having a pulmonary embolism. Unclear if he didn't think I'd make it to the ER or if he didn't think I'd be able to communicate what was happening once I got there. But I had showers of clots in my lungs. And when a 32-year-old who's healthy seeming, undergoes such an experience, they do a battery of tests. And what's interesting is I don't have any of the, predisposition markers to clotting. If I were to be pregnant, which is a increased time for pregnancy, I wouldn't be at an increased risk. The only thing they could tie it back to was me being on birth control pills. And I had heard about birth control pills having an increased risk, but had kind of chalked it off to that was something that happened to people who were smokers or had other pre-existing conditions. Now, obviously, I'm much more mindful of anything I'm putting into my body and the risk factors involved. But when I wrote an article about this experience on Mindbodygreen, it went viral. I heard from mothers, daughters, sisters. So many women had this type of experience, and oftentimes it ended tragically for them or their family member. So this to me was, just the start of what was a really long healing journey of trying to figure out what would make me feel better, moving from Western to more holistic modalities. And, the joy of well-being is the book I wish I had when I was trying to navigate this very complex world over a decade ago. Now, when I think of my why, it's evolved so much. We have two daughters. We're very concerned about the mental health outbreak right now. It's hard to be a human right now. It's hard to be a boy right now, but it's extraordinarily hard to be a girl, specifically a teenage girl. And while our girls are much younger, we're very aware of what a challenging world it is to be a child right now, and that is very much how our whys evolved over time. When I think of kind of big kind of wellness trends that have changed since the 14 years in the founding of Mindbodygreen, one of the big ones is, the movement and nutrition kind of go hand in hand. And in the 2010s, when Mindbodygreen was starting, there was a huge focus on yoga and Pilates from a movement standpoint. That was, kind of the modality of the 2010s and what I would consider the epicenters of the wellness world at that moment in time, which were LA and New York. And now what's wonderful is that there's much more of a shift into resistance training. And there's a statistic, that I know shaped my POV on it. and kind of how I myself work out. And I became so immune to this statistic because I had heard it so many times. Um, but then when we shared it on a Mindbodygreen Instagram, I realized just, wow, when you hear it for the first time, how startling it is. If you're over 65, there's a 25% chance that you'll fall. And if you do fall, studies show that your chance of falling again double. And if you fall and break your hip, then there is a 30 to 40% chance that you will die within a year. And it's not from the fall. It's from everything that happens regarding related to the fall, from the hospital stay, infection, whatever it may be. But that statistic, when I heard it, really shaped how I think about training and movement and the need for myself to build up armor so that if I do fall in my later years, I can get up, I can break the fall. Because I now really think of myself in my 40s of building the body that I want to have in my 80s, my 70s, my 90s, to be able to truly enjoy life. And what's wonderful is a lot of women are following suit on this trend. um, the most popular class last year in ClassPass was a women's weightlifting class, which is so great to see. If you go to our kids' school, there's girls in the gym lifting heavy weights. So it's a wonderful evolution in how we think about movement that has happened, where there's much more of a focus on strength training and not just in the bodybuilding world.
Yeah, I've definitely gone through that transition myself, where I was a gym rat in college, and then I got sick of going to the gym. I wasn't really thinking of wellness as holistically as I wanted, and then I got super into yoga, and I stopped lifting weights, and then I got into cycling, and then I kept hearing about the benefits of resistance training, but didn't dreaded going back to that stale gym routine that I had in college. So I just avoided. And then I finally found these HIIT classes that just made it really fun to do it sort of in community and with people and in a quick and efficient way. And it's just, I've never felt better in my body reintroducing that. And also, um, pl- prioritizing and putting more emphasis on protein intake, and kind of combining those two things together has been huge for me. And I know you two have spoken about that as well, but I want to go back to what you mentioned about, what you uh, went through with did you say pulmonary
Embolism, yeah. Pulmonary
embolism?
embolism. Yeah.
And this idea of it's the reason a lot of us get interested in well-being is something uh, drastic happens to us, or something happens to those around us that we care about, and we start to think about mortality, we start to think about longevity, and we get interested. And there's a gateway for all of us, whether it's nutrition, whether it's mental health, whether it's sleep. And then as we get into thinking about our health, the curiosity evolves, and there's just so much information out there. And I'm curious to know, after you both have been doing this for 14 years, how do you suggest people take that journey from initial curiosity, inception point, hey, I want to take my health more seriously, to listening to different resources and thought leaders versus listening to your own body and your own intuition when it comes to health and well-being?
I think it's all of the above. It's alchemy, and we believe in becoming, the CEO of your own health. And in order to do so, you need to be educated, you need to be informed, and you do need to be a good listener. Because no expert, no doctor, no matter how smart they are, is God, or knows it all. We're all human, and we're just big believers in listening, reading, uh, getting yourself up to date on all the information, being curious, uh, and ultimately making your own decision. With all that said, like, we do think there are like some major themes, and we kind of plan the book accordingly. There are certain things we believe are more or less good for everybody. And our thesis was we can get you to 80% there, and then the remaining 80% of your maximum well-being, and the remaining 20% is kind of on you. That's where bio individuality comes in to some degree. And so, you do have to read, you do have to listen, you do have to educate yourself, because I think anyone who just thinks they can follow one person and be quote unquote good with their health and wellness routine, that may work in for the short period of time, but isn't really going to be something that works for you over the course of your lifetime.
Are there things that you both followed in your early days in this industry that you now sort of look at yourself and you're like, wow, I can't believe I believed that, or I can't believe my mind changed on that?
Like, we're very similar. You talked about resistance training and yoga. Yoga saved me from back surgery. It was a big part of that. That was the why behind the inspiration of founding Mindbodygreen. And now my daily yoga practice has evolved to resistance training 3 to 5 days a week and yoga on the weekends, for the reasons you've outlined. Sarcopenia is real and something I'm focused on, maintaining my muscle mass as I age. That's a big one. Diet. We experimented with vegan, raw, vegetarian. I think we lean plant forward. However, if you're serious about building lean muscle mass, the reality is animal protein is superior to plant protein. It can be done if you're vegan or vegetarian. It's just a lot more difficult. And so that's a shift in our diet. And there was another period in time with regards to diet where I was very big on intermittent fasting. I would go for 18 to 20 hours a day. Now I'm more like 13. I need to get the protein and the calories in. And just, I think it's important for people too to, what we believe is well-being is a journey. And what works for you in your 20s is probably not going to work in your 30s, and then change again in your 40s and 50s and so on. And I think we're just huge believers in always being educated and always listening to your body. And that's something we've always tried to do. There was another period of time, meditation, pre-kids, we were doing your TM 20 minutes, morning and evening every day. And then kids, sorry, that's out the door. Now it's evolved to breath work. Maybe I meditate for 3 to 5 minutes. If I'm lucky, I set the timer. And the list goes on. We continually evolve as our lifestyle changes and the reality of our life, and also the science. We follow the science and also listen to our bodies, because our bodies change.
Why do you think that is on the diet front? I myself started to get really interested in my health, and I went from sort of, chicken and veggies and eating maybe a little bit more of a paleo diet to all of a sudden eating so much of a plant-based diet, and eating even, in a more raw vegan type of fashion. Why did that become so popular for a while? And why is that like a trend when people become more interested in their health? Is it because they were lacking that? Is it specific thought leaders that are promoting that agenda?
I think it's all of the above.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of so many different things. And the rise of more plant-based veganism diets, I think, was very closely tied to the rise of yoga as a very core modality of the 2010s, and that discipline is associated with a more vegetarian diet. I think there's a tribalism that develops. There's an interesting study that's referenced in the book from Harvard of how, as religion declines in popularity, people are seeking the same identity and sense of community and belonging through a lot of their wellness modalities, whether it be CrossFit or even a diet, and diet and lifestyle. And there's also, of course, now trending kind of figures within the zeitgeist and social media, and the way social media works, which I'll let Jason go into. People are really incentivized to have really strong points of view.
Nuance does not play well in social media. If you were to say, all right, let's go build a successful personal brand right now in social media, unfortunately, what that would look like and the recipe for success would be have an extreme point of view, find a common enemy, and don't deviate from it, and be as loud as incendiary as possible. And that, so that in nutrition, maybe that means, picking a food group and saying, we're going to eat this all day and that's it. And then demonize a certain food. And it's successful for a couple of reasons. One is it's always easier as a consumer just to just tell me what to do. No one has time. I get it. So when you start to bring in like nuance and you know what, you're going to have to educate yourself and do a little work. It's like, I don't have time for this. Just tell me the foods I need to eat. So if someone comes up on social media and says, here are the foods you need to eat, and wherever you do, just avoid bananas like the plague. I can do that. And the other big reason, which is unfortunate, and it's the state of the media today, um, Wharton did a study on the New York Times most emailed article list, which are like the most essentially like the most widely read articles in the world, most viral articles. And they characterized the articles by emotion, see if there were any patterns. The top three were anxiety, awe, and anger. Anger was number one. Anger increased virality by 34%. In short, if someone were to read an article in the New York Times and they got angry, that article was more likely to be read or watched or shared or engaged with. And that's the state of media. Anger drives engagement, comments, shares, likes. And ultimately revenue and builds brands. And subscriptions as well. So no one's really incentivized to have like a balanced, nuanced point of view.
But you two started a media company and have taken, I think, a little bit more of a nuanced view.
Where we have like, it's counterintuitive. Wholeheartedly, this is who we are. Like we believe in nuance. We believe in being curious. We believe in being empathetic, and specifically to health. And that's who we are. We couldn't do it any other way. And part of it is because there is a larger brand. I think ultimately what Colleen and I and our team at Mindbodygreen is good at is we're curators. Curators in a world where there's, some good information, some okay, and some terrible. And ultimately we're quite good at filtering it out and presenting multiple points of view. And it is a counterintuitive business model in the world we live in, but it's one we believe in and it's foundational for us and we're not going to deviate from.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So one thing that has stuck out to me is for a while I was like putting so much butter and coconut oil in my coffee and following Dave Asprey, and then all of a sudden I started to think about like a little bit of like look at myself in the mirror, and I just did not look or feel healthy, and I was like I'm eating way too much fat, and I'm just like listening to this guy talk about the benefits of eating a bulletproof high fat diet, and not eating that much protein, etc. And now you see like the rise of Andrew Huberman, and people have like forgotten about Dave Asprey in a lot of ways. And I wonder when there are folks who go to the extremes and when there are folks who are very polarizing, I actually think oftentimes what does it do to change people's relationship to the more nuanced point of views? And one sort of philosophy I have, or think line of thinking I have, is that Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist podcaster, has actually gotten really popular because people were sick of the polarizing views of someone like a Dave Asprey. So people, when there are these kind of snake oil salesmen, people then become more wary, and oftentimes go towards more neutral. Do you think that is?
We both know and like Dave and Andrew. And I think what Dave does, Dave believes in, and it works for Dave. And there are certain people it works for. And I agree, like a lot of it can be extreme. Andrew is very buttoned up on science, but some could, and like there's so much value to what he's doing, and I think is like really broken through in a way that's extraordinarily powerful. But one could also say that, some of what he's talking about with the morning protocols are a little bit extreme. If I gotta do morning sunlight, then I gotta do hot, then I do cold, then I work out for an hour a day, 6 to 7 days. It's also extreme, like that's viewed, and I think there's so much good there because it's all, Andrew's very big on, low, no cost, and a lot of this is, but if you really followed every protocol, it would be tough to
You
have
expect
a
a lot of
demanding job
supplements.
and raise your kids. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot.
I
But there's a lot of great for both. And again, this is where like we believe in like there's so much good from all of these people, and you kind of got to pick and choose.
yeah,
And that's what we tried to do with the book.
I think the hardest thing is for people really to cultivate the muscles to be able to listen to this information and not react. When I listen to Andrew talking about a fitness routine that I, as a working mom, could never conceive of for the next couple of years, I'm not like, oh, I should be doing this. It's just like, it's just data. And I also think, when we have people who have had these, success stories, um, and have found healing through certain modalities, oftentimes there's a sincerity to that
Yeah,
message that I don't think we should just entirely
yeah.
discount that unless you're a
A-
PhD, you can't talk about something that's
a-
worked for you.
And I know anecdotally people who, I met someone once at an event. Oh, God, it was a while ago. A mother whose son was like bipolar and went hardcore on the bulletproof diet and like fine and like swears by it. And again, extreme, extraordinary, but like, and like, and the same with, but I think your point is valid. Is a lot of personalities have extreme points of view,
Yeah.
and in extreme circumstances, those points of view can work for some people. I use the example in the book, and this is like the new, and I think this isn't exclusive to diet. I think it's wellness in general. Of in the diet conversation, we have two good friends. Mark Sisson, who's with us in Miami, who's 69, who is extraordinarily fit. He works out a ton and he's close to being carnivore. And then our other friend, Rich Roll, is 56, who's extraordinarily fit. They both look great, they feel great, and Rich is 100% plant-based. And like they don't have
And a lot of people would call both of them extreme.
extreme. They work out a lot. That's what they have in common, and they avoid processed foods. But like it's both working for them and they're thriving. And who's to say one's diet is better than the other? And I think this is where, there's some people who look at steak and then their lipid panel goes through the roof. And there are other people who eat steak multiple times a day and they're all good.
I heard Rich Roll eats bacon now. I'm just kidding.
Really?
You mentioned, I think at the top of the podcast that you do blood testing, and kind of look at your biomarkers. I think you said twice a year, and that's an interesting space that, and part of wellness has also become a lot more popularized. I think for good reason. You go to your primary care doc and try to get something like other testing covered by insurance. Oftentimes they question you. They say, why do you need to test your mercury levels? Why do you need to test your cortisol or your stress levels? And then in the direct to consumer wellness space, as a result, there's all these different tests, which feels for like different life stages, men versus women, hormones, and beyond. And in a lot of ways, it's so fragmented. And then you have certain companies that are testing things, but then the way that they really monetize their products is through offering supplementation. So how have you both thought about and navigated the testing space? Have you gone to a specific functional doctor, or have you used the service that you like?
So I'm really blessed in that Dr. Frank Lipman is my doctor. We've known each other for over a decade. He's like family, and he's my doctor, and he's got an incredible team, Scott and Giovanni, who I work with. And I just do my twice a year blood work. We test for everything. For me, my focus, given my family history, is cardiovascular disease. So I'm always paying more attention to the lipid panel, but like I screen for everything and then I kind of do a follow-up call and let it go. And I think for everyone, I don't need, if people need to go to the length of, I could do like 28 vials of blood. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'7", so maybe that's, not so bad, but, I don't know if people need to go to that length. I think they should, talk with their primary care physician and go over their family history and think about like the concerns they have. And also, and I would recommend at least once a year if you really want to be, if you're really concerned twice a year. I think anything over that is overkill, because the other thing I've learned with labs is you're never going to have perfect lab work. Sometimes they're wonky. And I've joked, like, the moment you get perfect labs, it's like you get hit by a bus. And you also have to have an understanding, mentally, can you handle all this information? And I've had instances where I've been stressed about things I shouldn't have been, and it was just a wonky lab, and that was it.
Yeah, Colleen, do you have any thoughts on the testing world?
We're actually on kind of different mindsets on this. And I have a much more nuanced approach to testing, which is I will, kind of test the regular screening that I do with my OBGYN, but then if something's wrong. So there was a time in early 2022 when I was really lethargic. And at that point in time, we ordered a battery of tests. And, I found out something really wonky, that I was vitamin C deficient. And, it wasn't something I was paying, particular attention to. But sometimes I find too much information can be stressful for all the reasons Jason mentioned. Your labs are never going to be perfect. So I'll do the deep dive when there's something that's of concern. I've gotten, in tune enough with my body where I know when something's off, and that's when I'll kind of step up the testing with my doctor.
Cool. Something that I'm really curious about for you two is on the more mental health side. You've started this company together. You're married. You have children. What has been the most effective for you in terms of kind of maintaining your relational well-being through the ups and downs, smiles and frowns, and the oftentimes the burnout that comes from starting a company? I think it's like the wellness companies oftentimes have people that are unwell because it's a lot of pressure and stress to start a company and run a company, especially as a husband and wife.
Starts with good sleep, and last night was terrible.
But not because
Not because the company, because of two little beautiful creatures. One
How
of
old
them
are
had a
they?
nightmare, and then the next week,
almost four
four,
and
and then
6.
6, and then once one of them
I thought they were older.
breaks.
No.
No. So they're still beautiful little creatures. So we can't get that mad about them screaming and coming into our bed and ruining our sleep. But
Yeah.
you know,
No, but being a wellness company still has the same pressures as every other type of company out there. You're not immune to the ups and downs just because you're doing something you're personally passionate about. So I've definitely had to work on it. It's still a work on progress for me, of being able to better surrender to life and circumstances, and that is definitely a work in progress. There are things that I've found that have really helped me, and that is to completely escape from work and wellness. The beach is really a spiritual place. One of the experts we mention a lot in the purpose and chapter is Dr. Lisa Miller, and spirituality doesn't need to be as rigid as religion or spirituality in perhaps its current sense. It can be something bigger than yourself, a transcendent experience with nature, caring for others. So I found that tapping into time at the beach, getting my feet grounded in the sand, is really transformative. Even doing something super joyful with Jason or without Jason, pickleball. It's something that completely extricates us, from the situation, and it's something that I'm working on, not just because of my own mental health and the need to do that to be a good person, but also because it goes back to the why of our daughters. And Dr. Miller found that when mother and child were both high in spirituality, the child was 80% protected against depression compared to mothers and children who were not concordant for spirituality. So, in other words, a child was 5 times less likely to be depressed when a spiritual life was shared with a mother. And you were talking about the whys earlier, of kind of how we, how it's evolved, and that's something that we think a lot about. It also is one of those nuggets, and when it was shared on Mindbodygreen's Instagram, sparked so much engagement and so much controversy at the same time. But it's a very generous and loving definition of spirituality, which is this belief in something bigger than yourself.
and I think in terms of working together and running a business in the health and wellness category, we also believe in financial wellness, and that means being profitable. We've been profitable for 17, 18 quarters in a row. I've lost track. And why that's so important is Profitability allows you to control your destiny and to stay true to your mission. And I think you never want to find yourself in a position where you have to do something for the money, so to speak, that isn't necessarily in the best interest of the mission and the brand. And we've been lucky enough where we've never had to do that. And I think it's actually more critical to be profitable if you're mission driven, because when you like we run a business, and businesses sometimes have to make decisions for the bottom line that aren't in the best interests of the mission. And I think that when you're in our category, it's kind of really important to stay true to the mission. And so that's something that's just critical for us. So I think there's almost like double the pressure as founders and CEOs and entrepreneurs in a category. Like we're never going to do an ad deal with like something we don't believe in, even if it pays a zillion dollars, so to speak. And so that's important. And I think working together as husband and wife, I think we work very differently. We have different styles, we have different strengths and weaknesses. So we actually complement each other very well, in a way that's somewhat unique, we've been told. And we still have good days and bad days like everyone else. But I also think that it helps when you do have bad days, you have each other, because I think it's also very lonely as a lot of founders have mental health issues, and I get it. Like you're all alone, and there are things that no one else will understand on your team, or things you can't even tell people on your team that you're going through, and so it's nice to have that. We're not alone on this journey, because sometimes the journey is great and fantastic and filled with celebrations and so forth, but other times it's lonely, and there's that dark night of the soul when you're dealing with stuff that it's brutal, and everyone has that. And so with all that said, like what do I do? I'm a walker. Like if I don't get my 10,000 plus steps, I'm not a happy camper. So I'm always moving, I'm always walking, always doing something. I love going. There's a fantastic gym in Miami called Anatomy. I love going to. Even if it's like today before this interview, I had 15 minutes. I went for 15 minutes. That's it. And I got it in. And so I'll get in the gym. If I like need to get the cardio up, I'll do the stairs. I have a rule: if it's less than 5 flights, I do the stairs. I don't like running. If you see me running, that means I'm being chased. Call the police.
I love the piece on profitability, and I think it's something that is becoming a bigger part of the conversation in business is capital efficiency. And you all have had a lot of different products over the last, is it 10 plus years? You've primarily were advertising, and then you do health coaching certificates, and more recently you've rolled out supplements. You have courses. How have you thought about like product innovation and expansion with under the Mindbodygreen brand? And then as you think about the next 5 to 10 years, where do you foresee the brand going?
Sure. So you're exactly right. We got an advertising business, we have an online education business, and we have a product business. Under products, we have supplements and personal care. And the way we run the business is they all are separate P&Ls under one big P&L. So we try to make businesses decisions based on that unit, and make the decisions best for that unit and that P&L specifically. And then we have the larger P&L. So essentially those different business lines we look at individually and then collectively as a group. In terms of deciding whether or not if we should do something, first and foremost, is it serve our mission? Is it on brand? Can we be best in class here? If we can't be best in class, we don't want to do it. The other piece is innovation. Like, can we really innovate here and create something that no one else has done? So when we decided to go into online education and specifically health coaching certification, we feel like the market was stagnant. It's an interesting point of time where health coaching is generally widely accepted due to telemedicine, and there are only a couple players out there. We thought we could create a best-in-class product at a better price and in a more condensed offering. And so we thought we could really innovate and create a fantastic product. So that was a yes. In terms of products and supplements specifically, I had a life-changing experience with supplements where I had this specific marker, homocysteine, which homocysteine is something I encourage everyone to get tested for. A lot of doctors don't test for it. It's essentially it's a marker of inflammation, and homocysteine at high levels could lead to a pulmonary embolism or a blood clot or an aneurysm. So like it can be a catastrophic event. And if you have the MTHFR gene, which almost half the population does, you're probably not methylating properly, and poor methylation can lead to out of whack homocysteine. Your homocysteine should be under 15. A lot of doctors think under 10. Mine was 63. To
Crazy.
this day, whenever I meet a doctor, their jaw drops and said, like,
How old are you
how are
when
you
that you
here?
hit?
Like, I've
It
never
was
seen it done.
63.
This
Okay.
was like in our early 40s. And I just started getting tested for it. And you can't really do anything in terms of diet and lifestyle. And I remember speaking with Frank Lipman. He was like, "You need to like, I am messengering you over supplements. Like we're in New York. Like if you send it over, like I'm messengering you over." And I went from 63 to 23 in about 30 days, and then today I'm finally at 10.
With which supplements did that? Was it?
So Frank sent me a cocktail of a bunch of different supplements, and this actually became the inspiration for our own methylation support product because I wanted to like I knew what was working and it was multiple things, and I'm like I don't want to let's just condense this into 3 capsules like that we can create. And so it was the inspiration for our methylation support product and our supplement line because it was through that experience where I'm like whoa. I kind of believed in supplements, but now I really believe. And that was the inspiration. The question there for us is, you'll hear better for you a lot in our category. We believe in best for you. So can we do best for you? I have become say supplement snob for lack of a better characterization. And so we created products that we thought best in class that like we would take. And we take mostly all of our products. And so that's how we approach, new categories. Can we really create something that's best in class, innovative, and obviously to some degree the market has to be big enough. We don't want to create something in a category that's so small it doesn't matter. Like we want to have a meaningful impact because ultimately we want to affect as many lives as possible. So you need market size to do that.
So then I guess as you think about the next, that's super helpful in terms of understanding, as you think about the vision 5-10 years, where do you see yourselves going?
So I think once COVID happened, I've given up on the 5 to 10 year vision because I think the world moves so quickly. I think, 2 years, maybe. Um, I think just doing everything we do, but continuing to improve, putting out best in class content in terms of audio content or the Mindbodygreen podcast, written content that you find on our .com, video content. So like putting out phenomenal content, uh, product innovation. Continuing to look at new products, maybe new categories. We'll see, and then like really building our health coaching program is just so exciting. I think we'd all agree that our modern medical system is not perfect. And a lot of people are really excited about integrative medicine and functional medicine. And those people have trouble scaling. And health coaches really solve that problem and really can help people with behavior change. And that's an offering we're really proud of and really excited to continue to grow. So I think those are kind of the core areas. And then, we're getting back slowly to events again. Events used to be a big part of our business, very significant, 25% of our business.
20.
Yeah, and then we kind of stopped doing events, and now we're starting to do some small events again, which we really like. It's so great to really connect in real life with people who share your values. That's something we're excited to start doing. We started to do slowly
Amazing.
again. So,
I would love to give you both some rapid fire questions to get a better understanding of who you both are, sort of outside the business. I feel like I have gotten a nice understanding, but just sometimes just fun. Anything else you want to mention about the book or anything else on the joy of well-being before we go to the rapid fires?
just that they can go to thejoyofwellbeing.com or any major book retailer, and we're really proud of this. Essentially, everything we've learned from every expert, and including many of the you named, we kind of tried to condense and put it into the book in a format where people could really easily digest it and address the main objections people have to health and wellness is I don't have the time and I have the resources. We solved it for you.
I love it. I love it. Congrats again on the book. All right. So as I'm pulling this up, I'll tell you the funny story that that I had mentioned at the top of the podcast. So I mentioned I have been inspired by what you two have built for a while. So one day I was driving home from yoga and in LA and Westwood, and I'm on the phone with my co-founder, and I see Jason, and I'm like, oh my god, it's the founder of Mindbodygreen. He's like, what? He's like, how do you know how do you know how he looks? And I was like, for me, like the celebrities are like people that like run health and wellness companies because it's a space that I'm really interested in. I'm like, let me go, like I need to go talk to him. And our company at the time was called Avo. So I run to Ralph's, I buy a bag of avocados, I get a card, I write a quick card, I park illegally, I run into the hotel where where you were, and I'd missed you, and I go to the front desk and I'm like, can you send this up to Jason's room? But I don't think
They never did. They never did. I would remember that.
I would have remembered
I'm like,
avocados.
you would have won a permanent place in our hearts with avocados. They never did it.
no. So the guy at the front.
Oh no. Well, that's so sweet of you.
That's so
it's so
sweet.
sweet of you. But that was us. It was 2017. We were
Teamwork.
staying at we're big like Bod Boy Point people, so we were staying at the W in
Westwood.
Westwood. It was a weird place to stay, but it's super walk.
Why were you in LA at the time? Were you just here for work?
We were doing an event.
Is that funny? And now we are here 5 years later.
Oh man, I'm so bummed.
I don't
What
know.
did they
Should
do
we
with
call?
the avocados?
We should call the W
like-
Hotel. What did you do? I want a
That's
reimbursement for my avocados.
It was May 2017. It was May 17.
Yeah.
It was May 17. Like what happened? Oh man. Well, that's so sweet. And you would have you knew exactly what to get.
That was a time in my life where we were doing a lot of brand building and a lot of gifted avocados.
A lot of gifted avocados.
All right, so some rapid fires. What is besides your own book, a book that you've recommended the most, reread multiple times, or one that has left a lasting impact on you?
One I recently read, I want to say the title is 4,000 Weeks, and it's all about optimizing your life for experiences that are going to be memorable. Our most precious resource is time. So how do we really focus on investing in the things that are going to ultimately create memories and a life well lived?
I actually forgot to tell you this, but I bought the audiobook for that. And so I'm halfway through, and that would be my answer as well.
All right, great. Favorite product, like a CPG product that you love at like a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods?
Oh God, that's like a big list. Like we love Purely Elizabeth, and buy their granola all the time, and she's a dear friend. Love.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We love Siete chips. We love Hu chocolate.
Hu chocolate. Love Simple Mills.
We love milk, almond milk.
Yeah.
Sounds like I would enjoy eating at your house.
Yeah. Love Costrina olive oil. That's another one. There's a lot. Love Alexandre Farms, their A2 milk. Buy a lot of as well.
I think I have. I have an Alexander Farms sticker on my water bottle. A purchase under $200 that you made in the last 6 months that has provided the most value to you. Looking around.
Okay.
We
don't buy a lot of stuff.
We actually don't buy a lot of stuff, but I bought a 5-pack to a resistance training local studio here called Tremble, and it's a great way to get some resistance training in. Probably not as effective as lifting the super heavy weights, but I really enjoy the social elements of it because there's a great community of women that go there.
And this is hopefully this counts. I joined Anatomy, which is this great gym at Miami, that there's a number of locations. It's around that price point, and they just have it's the best gym. I was never a gym guy per se, but like they've nailed the gym, the culture, the experience. Like it just has such great energy, and I just always love going in there. Even if, no matter what mood I'm in, I always walk out feeling better. They really nailed it.
Signature dish or favorite thing to cook?
Gosh, that changes a lot.
So we're huge fans of. We do smoothies a lot with our own collagen powder, so that's something that's like a go-to when we don't have time. We'll throw malt in there with our collagen and our fiber powder, and then like avocado, nut butter, some arugula, maybe some frozen broccoli. We do that a lot, and then like our go-to hack for dinner, we'll do with our kids like tolerant pasta. They're like their linguine. It's essentially chickpea and lentil. It's lentil pasta. We'll we'll do that a lot. We'll like throw in like a protein. Or like last night, but I always make sure we have frozen wild salmon in the freezer. So that's something we.
Oh, that's such a good thing to have in the freezer.
Yeah, frozen's the way to do it. It's so much more economical.
Yeah, I'm waiting for someone to create like a really cool frozen brand. Like I know there's Daily Harvest, but like something that you can find across retailers that is like simple frozen, like shiitake mushrooms or sunchokes, like kind of more specialty vegetables and stuff.
You should
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. All right. I know where to launch it. One thing you're grateful for today.
Just our family.
Yeah.
Everyone is happy and healthy, and that's just something you could never really take for granted.
Best piece of advice you've ever received.
My advice is always to listen to the whispers in your body so that it doesn't have to become a bigger noise to help get your attention that something may be off. And you don't want to have to wait for that cosmic kick in the butt from the universe to change how you live.
I'll bring it back. We were having the testing conversation, and there was a period where I was like, let's do 4 times a year. And my doctor is Frank Lipman. And he said to me, you're overdoing it with the testing. Like, stop with all the testing. So I'll use that as like my health advice is like with quantified self. I think for me, it was helpful to have like a professional say like, okay, like you're good. Like just do this. Don't overdo it. Because I think we can often get carried away in health and wellness. So
Yeah, let me double click on that. There's two other questions I ask around that is, what is your least, and maybe I'll ask Colleen first. What is your least favorite piece of health advice?
Oh, gosh.
it's a lot.
Yeah. Right now it's anything that has protocol in it, because that to me just screams, complicated and won't be able to integrate into my day.
I think this idea that you need to, I think running is overrated and walking is underrated.
Yes.
Have you heard of this new thing, that's coming from Europe, High Rocks? Fit Insider just covered it. It's like this new fitness competition that sounds pretty cool. It does have some running in it, but they're trying to build. It's not like Spartan Race or Tough Mudder, but they're building like the marathon of fitness. So you run a kilometer and then you do like a sled push. You run a kilometer, then you do a sled pull, and then you keep running, and then you do like one fitness activity that I feel like both of you might be into, given like your interest in resistance training. But they're creating this like universal fitness competition. So there is some running, but it also like less of an emphasis on running. And then the other, on the flip side of the least favorite piece of health advice, I ask, what's the craziest or most out there thing you do to optimize your well-being?
I can tell you, I tried it. There was a period I tried everything. So back in like 2012, I was struggling with parasites, and parasites are tricky and controversial, and I just like felt awful. And it was kind of like when I really started to get into functional medicine, I was open to trying everything. So like I did colon hydrotherapy. where, you're bending
Done that
over
too.
and they're blowing water up there. And I went numerous times. I did that. I went to an iridologist, someone who like looks in your eyes and essentially tells you what's going on in your body. There was one thing I thought was accurate, and the other thing I was like, no way. Psychics, all sorts of. I've tried a lot. Those are some of the ones that like immediately come to mind. And I think, look, when you're not feeling well and you feel like you're being ghosted by a doctor where they're just looking at you like you're crazy or saying you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you, people will seek any validation from anybody. And I was looking for that. And I feel for people who are going through that, whether it's severe autoimmune or struggling with something that's just undiagnosed. And it's a terrible place to be when you're looking for answers. And I think that's when people can fall prey to doctors who have God complexes or gurus, who maybe don't have, who maybe are just human and make mistakes. There was one uh, intuitive we know who apparently, we had heard years later that he had to stop working in a certain practice because every woman who was coming in, he was basically telling them to leave their husband to get divorced. And it turns out he was going
Oh
through,
my God.
stuff in his own marriage, and it was manifesting through everyone. But like, the healers are humans too.
Yeah.
But so I would say I've tried a lot of weird things.
Yeah, I've tried a lot on the healing journey, but now I think my time in wellness is really integrated into my life. And the principles of the book of the joy of well-being is how we live our life. If it doesn't bring us joy, we're probably not doing it.
Yeah. Did you both read that new medical medium piece?
I started
We
it.
have not. It's just it looked like a headline where it's just a terrible situation for everybody, and I was like, "You know what? I'm having a good day. I don't know if I want to read this."
Yeah, it wasn't.
Looks
It
sad.
was sad. A last question. Two questions for you. Who do you look up to and why?
I mean, I look up to so many people within health and wellness, and just within, right now when we are looking for people, you know, to look up to, it's often people that share values. So we're looking at the quality of their relationship with their partner. Is this, do they have a great relationship with their kids? Are they finding that integration between work and life and kids? So it's a lot of people who are just living life in a way that is more about value alignment and less about who wrote this book, who wrote that book. It's really about finding people where we're finding the value alignment.
Yeah, and so someone who I admire and look up to, I'm lucky to call a friend, is John Mackey, the co-founder and former CEO of Whole Foods. They just, to build such a pioneering business over the course of time, weather numerous storms, and ultimately find a safe landing, if you will, with a behemoth in Amazon. Now he's starting another company, in post retirement, that's also mission driven. I just give him such tremendous credit. I think it's a lot easier to build a business in a condensed time window, but to do so over decades,
Yeah.
in retail, which is continuously changing, and be a pioneer in our category, like, I think he'll say no, but I'm like, you're kind of responsible for our world in many ways. If you think about the growth of CPG and better for you and best for you, it's like Whole Foods Market, like it scales. And to do that over the course of decades at the scale he did is just really impressive. And he's such a mission driven guy. I admire he speaks his mind. You may not agree with everything he says, but he believes it. He's not going to deviate. He's not going to say anything to please anyone, and I admire that.
This has been such a joy, pun intended. Uh, uh, would love to hang out with you both at some point, maybe in Miami or LA. I'll bring the avocados and make sure that they get to you this time.
All good. We got avocados. I'll buy you I need feel like I need to reimburse avocados.
Amazing. Congrats on the book, mindbodygreen.com. Is it mindbodygreen.com or mbg.com?
The book is at thejoyofwellbeing.com.
Okay. thejoyofwellbeing.com. And then where can people learn more about you two? Are you on social media, or is it more the
So we're both on social. We are not exactly prolific, but it's just our names at Colleen Wachob and then at Jason Wachob. And then there's obviously mindbodygreen.com and at
amazing?
mindbodygreen.
Well, thank you both for your time, and I hope you have a beautiful sunny weekend in Miami with your family this weekend. Maybe some pickleball and others.
Awesome.
Thanks so
Thank you so
much. Be
much.
well.